Welcome back to the Morning Kickoff Show. I'm your host, Matt Witt, and we are back to cover Minnesota Vikings football. After the Vikings finished their first half of the season 8-1, we are here to hand out our awards for Most Valuable Player, our awards for Rookie of the Year, just doing our midseason rewards here. Now, going into the season, I had lower expectations than a lot of Vikings fans did, and it's safe to say that the Vikings are a very good team. It's safe to say that the Vikings are amongst the best teams in this league. In some people's opinion, the best. I don't care what your opinion is with the Vikings. Do not rank us number one in your power rankings. Because please, when you rank us number one in your power rankings, we do bad. This team is only good when doubted. See, if we end up losing the next couple of games, I'm going to blame you guys who ranked us number one in your power rankings. Okay, let's go right into this. Starting off with our Rookie of the Year for the Minnesota Vikings. Gotta go Ryan right here. Ryan Rent, the punter from Tulane, has been a beast. By no means did I expect a punter to be our midseason Rookie of the Year here, but somehow he's been that guy. And he hasn't just been that guy for the Minnesota Vikings, but he has been arguably the best punter this season. Now, the last couple of weeks were kind of down weeks, but I'm looking specifically going in through like the New Orleans Saints games where he was dominant. He threw for a touchdown pass, or not a touchdown pass. He threw for a first down. After that, he did a 73-yard punt against Miami. I mean, the Ryan Wright's been ridiculous, and I just don't remember the last time ever being this excited for a rookie punter with the Minnesota Vikings. 19 punts pinned inside the 20 and a 73-yard long where he had Tyreek Hill backpedaling, speeding. Tyreek Hill's fast, but I've never seen him run that fast backwards to catch for a punt where the Minnesota Vikings special teams pinned him down. I mean, just a beast of a punter. He's a bulky punter. He's that guy. I'm sorry. Ryan Wright is a beast, and I'm so happy to have him here at Purple and Gold. Going into this offseason, no one really said punter was a need for the Vikings, and I said going into this offseason that the Vikings should bring in like punters and kickers to play for our starting position, but I didn't actually expect that someone would win our starting punt position here, especially over Jordan Berry, who was decent. Jordan Berry was not a problem at all for the Vikings, and somehow we upgraded by adding a 22-year-old punter out of Tulane who is the future, and punters play for 10 years, so this guy can be here for a long time. And then our runner-up for Rookie of the Year, in my opinion, is a Caleb Evans. Caleb Evans been a beast, and there's no question this guy is a dog, and he's come out and made some big time plays, but you can't really put him as Rookie of the Year right now because he has a very limited play time. Looking at the last couple of weeks, this is the reason why Evans is in the question for Rookie of the Year, is simply because he's been able to step in for Cam Dantzler and shut down starting corners or starting wide receivers, which is ridiculous. I mean, you don't often see rookie corners look this great, and you don't often see ever fourth-round draft pick rookie corners look this great. Coming out of Mizzou, it is a Power 5 school, but it's not a big-name school when it comes to cornerbacks. Great, Caleb Evans. I think all of us Vikings fans can agree. He is right now one of the most loved players in this team. He loves playing here. He's active on Twitter. He mentions how much he loves the fans, loves the atmosphere, everything. Caleb Evans, please, if you ever need anything, I'm here. But as of right now, I can't put you as my midseason Rookie of the Year simply because, I mean, come on. He hasn't played as much as some other guys have. It sucks to see, but I can't put Ed Ingram on this list as well because for obvious reasons. Going on to Breakout Player of the Year for the Minnesota Vikings, easy favorite number one for Breakout Player of the Year, no question, Christian Darrisaw. Christian Darrisaw is not just the Minnesota Vikings Breakout Player of the Year, but he might be the NFL's Breakout Player of the Year. He has stepped in and, in some people's opinion, been the best left tackle in this entire league this season. He is the top-ranked left tackle by PFF, 89.8 PFF grade, hasn't allowed a single sack this season. I don't know the last time we have had a left tackle as good as Darrisaw is, and this guy is 23 years old. There is such a good young core in this Minnesota Vikings offense. And I just want to say again, and I know I've said it many times on the show, but thank you, Rick Spielman, because we never gave Rick Spielman enough credit for how good he was when it came to draft day. Now, he had a long list of bad draft picks in the first round, but he ended that by taking Justin Jefferson and Christian Darrisaw, who are the future for this franchise in some of the most important positions in the entire NFL. That is the left tackle position and the wide receiver position. And we have arguably the best player at both of those positions right now. and easily maybe the best player under 25. I mean, Andrew Thomas has been unstoppable, but looking at it for the Minnesota Vikings, we were able to get these players in the later half of the first round, which is incredible from Rick Spielman. Now, given Justin Jefferson was not supposed to still be available at 22, and Christian Darrisaw wasn't supposed to be available in the 20s as well. But still, with that being said, we got these players on our roster. Christian Darrisaw, absolute dog. He's been the best left tackle this season, according to PFF. And in my opinion, he has been. Should be a Pro Bowl, should be first team All Pro. We're going to have to wait and see what the NFL decides and how his injury looks, because this will obviously impact his legacy, as injuries always do. And I'm hoping he can be back to play very soon. Same goes for Cameron Dantzler, who is my runner up for Breakout Player of the Year. Now, this can be a question. There are a lot of breakout candidates for this Minnesota Vikings team. Ezra Cleveland at left guard has stepped down the last couple of weeks, but he's been a beast at left guard. KJ Osborne's been one of the most reliable receivers on this entire roster. I mean, how often do you see Osborne dropping a catch or miss running a route? Never. KJ Osborne is an elite wide receiver 3 and maybe a wide receiver 2 going into the future, depending on what the Vikings do with Adam Thielen and how they're going to have to restructure his contract to be able to afford Justin Jefferson. This is a conversation for another day, but as of right now, there's a lot of breakout candidates. KJ Osborne's been a beast. Cam Dantzler's been a beast. Hopefully he can be back. In 4 weeks, he's been placed on IR. He's my pick. We're going to have to wait and see. But Cam Dantzler, I mean, people are not showing Dantzler enough respect here. Dantzler, third-year player out of Mississippi State, has been going against wide receiver 1s. I think it's really interesting how many people on this list are going to be defensive players, because looking at the Minnesota Vikings defense right now, they've won us many games. And yes, they started out the season very rough. I mean, they didn't look good the first 4 weeks of the season. But looking at it against the Cardinals, looking at it against the Dolphins, and even the Bills this last week, you can make the statement that they won us the game. Just looking at the big-time plays that they were able to come up with. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind is Eric Kendricks' fumble return touchdown, but more importantly, Patrick Peterson coming up with big-time turnovers time after time. Cameron Dantzler, game-winning fumble recovery against the Bears when it was Amir Smith-Marset had the ball. So it's interesting to see how this Vikings defense has been good enough. I don't want to say they've been great. They've still been giving up one of the most points allowed per game and one of the most yards allowed per game every single week in and week out. But the thing is, they've been turning the ball over. They've been getting to the quarterback. And it's interesting to see here. And I'm giving Cameron Dantzler a lot of credit, and hopefully he can be back very soon. I just talked about Caleb Evans, who should do a great job stepping in for Dantzler. It's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. But Dantzler, hoping he can be back as soon as possible. And once again, going up against wide receiver 1s. Looking at for comeback player of the year, still defensive guys. Easy pick right here for midseason comeback player of the year, and that is Zadarius Smith, with our runner-up being Danielle Hunter. Both guys on the edge, both veteran players coming off of massive injuries. I have to put them for comeback player of the year. Going into the season, we were saying meet at the quarterback. We were saying we had one of the best pass rushing duels in this league. Well, it's safe to say after the first few weeks, it didn't look like the Vikings pass rushing duel was as good as we expected. It looked like we set our expectations too high for this Minnesota Vikings defense. Well, it looks like we were wrong, because now after the last few weeks, this Vikings defense has come together. Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter are now looking as good as we thought that they were going to look all season long. Patrick Peterson having his best season in a long time. Harrison Smith still continuing to be a top 7 safety in this league. Cam Bynum stepping up at safety as well. Jordan Hicks looking like one of the best off-ball linebackers in this league as well. And then also we talked about Dantzler as well already. We talked about Caleb Evans. I think it's crazy just the fact that this Minnesota Vikings defense has been this weird. The fact that we've been giving up multiple points per game, multiple yards per game, but at the end of the day, turning the ball over, getting to the quarterback, coming up with big-time plays has led us to what our record is right now, and that's 8-1, in case you guys forgot, which I'm sure a lot of you haven't. And Zadarius Smith right now is having maybe the best first half of a season in his entire career. And that's saying a lot when he was a first-team All-Pro and multiple Pro Bowls as well on top of this. Zadarius Smith, 9.5 sacks, second in the league right now, on track to almost break his single season sack record, on track to break his tackle record with 29 total tackles right now, already broke his pass deflection record, which he already has 4 PBUs on the season, which is incredible. I mean, the reason why I have him on the comeback player of the list is not because he's ever been bad, but just simply because he missed almost all of last season with the Packers due to what was a knee injury for them. I believe he just played one game last year and now is coming off of this injury. Had a lot of doubters hop on him. I mean, he hasn't played an entire season. A lot of people are saying, oh, he's going into his 30s. Oh, he's coming off of a big injury. Well, the guy has proven those haters wrong, as Zadarius Smith has been one of the best edge rushers in this entire league this season. And in my opinion, the best free agent acquisition in the NFL was Zadarius Smith. Runner-up goes to Danielle Hunter. Also, same story, coming off of some big injuries. Only played 7 games last year. Year before that, played 0 games. So he's played 7 games in the last 2 seasons, coming off of a torn pectoral and a neck surgery. So coming off of massive injuries, and Danielle Hunter is still looking solid. Now, it was interesting with Danielle Hunter because obviously the Vikings the Vikings were trying to trade away Danielle Hunter and nobody wanted him. And it just shows how skeptical a lot of GMs are when it comes to age and injuries, as people weren't trading for Danielle Hunter. And this could be due to his contract and a few different reasons. But the biggest one is obviously due to him coming off of massive surgeries that could ruin his career. But looking at it right now, Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith were able to overcome adversity here and have what was a very solid first half of the season. And for the Minnesota Vikings case, a great first half for the season. Defensive MVP for the Vikings this season, we're also going to go back to Zadarius Smith here. Obvious reasons. We already talked about how great of a season he's been having. Maybe one of the best first half season. Maybe the best first half of a season in his entire career. We love Z Smith here in Minnesota. We love him. It's going to be so fun to see what happens, how good of a game, if a good game, when we go to Green Bay to play the Packers. I believe we do that week 16, if I have that right. I'm not sure. Near the end of the season, we'll go to Green Bay to take on the Packers, which is where Zadarius Smith is really going to get his revenge. He got his revenge week 2. Or week 1 this year, but that was at home. It's going to be fun to see what he can do back at Lambeau Field. Runner up for Defensive Player of the Year is going to be Patrick Peterson here. I already talked about how great of a season Patrick Peterson's been having. It's so weird to see this Vikings defense is all veterans. Well, actually, I feel like we have a very good mix between veterans and young guys because our entire defensive front have been in the league for some time now. Our guys on the outside, looking at Chandon Sullivan, looking at Patrick Peterson, these guys have been in the league a long time. Our linebacker duo, still veteran guys. Safeties, Cam Bynum's newer, but I mean, Harrison Smith's been in the league for a long time. And you see it when you watch these games. These guys are smart. These defensive players play smart on this Minnesota Vikings. We might not have the best defense, and in my opinion, we don't even have a top 7 defense in this league, in my opinion. But they've been able to overcome that. They've been able to turn the ball over. They've been able to come up with big-time plays that have led the Vikings to multiple wins this season. And if it wasn't for these guys, we would not have the record that we have right now. And hats off to all these guys: Zadarius Smith, Patrick Peterson, Danielle Hunter, Caleb Evans, Cam Bynum, all these guys that we just talked about here. MVP for the Minnesota Vikings, the last award because the biggest one. MVP, obviously, Justin freaking Jefferson. Jettas, the best receiver in the league right now. The 1,060 receiving yards, which is second in the league. And now it's second in the league because Tyreek Hill has one extra game than Justin Jefferson. The Dolphins are on their bye week this week, I believe, week 11, where Justin Jefferson should have the most receiving yards in the league after this game. Has been averaging 117 yards per game, which is unheard of. How does that even happen? 117 yards? When you have as many playmakers as you have in this Minnesota Vikings offense. I mean, don't forget, you have Dalvin Cook in the backfield. You have Adam Thielen, one of the most reliable receivers in this league. You have TJ Hawkinson, KJ Osborne. Somehow Justin Jefferson is that guy. Throw the ball to him 13, 15. I don't care. Continue to throw the ball to Justin Jefferson because this guy comes down with it every single time. Jefferson is a beast, and he shouldn't just be the Vikings MVP this season, but he should be in the conversation for league MVP this season, the same way Cooper Kupp was last year. 5 receiving touchdowns in the season, or 5 total touchdowns in the season. One of them was rushing. 88.2 PFF grade, incredible. And then my runner-up for MVP for the Vikings is obviously Kirk Cousins. I feel like, in my opinion, Kirk has been kind up and down, but you can't argue. I mean, the guy has 5 fourth-quarter comebacks. Kirk Cousins has led us to 5 fourth-quarter comebacks this season. That is not heard of very often, especially from people say, oh, he can't show up in the big moments. The guy shows up in the big moment every single week, leading us to victories. And if you want to argue that he can't play in certain places, I mean, the guy played in Buffalo, led us to a fourth-quarter comeback. He played in Miami, led us to a fourth-quarter comeback. A few years ago, in the playoffs, played in New Orleans, led us to a fourth quarter comeback. Like, let's not forget, this guy, yes, his Monday Night Football record is very bad. His primetime record, not that great. But when it comes to big moments, Kirk Cousins is good enough. I mean, Kirk Cousins is the guy throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson at the end of the day. You got to put him for runner-up, and he's in the conversation for MVP. League MVP right now is Kirk Cousins, which is not seen very often. I mean, his stats has been great, but looking at him as a player, this is the best season of his career. As just looking at the first half of the season, how it's gone. I mean, the Vikings offense is such a fun offense right now. We have so many young, talented guys that we talked about here in this episode today, with Justin Jefferson and Christian Darrisaw being the youngest guys at the core position on our Minnesota Vikings offense, who've been outstanding this season and are both arguably the best players at their position right now. Christian Darrisaw is arguably the best left tackle in the league. Justin Jefferson, also arguably the best wide receiver in the league. It's just so fun to watch how this Minnesota Vikings rest of the season is going to unfold. And I want to mention here, Vikings fans, stop getting cocky. We are one half of the way through the season. We have to play Dallas Cowboys and Patriots the next two games, with the Patriots one being on Thanksgiving, a primetime game. Patriots play a lot of primetime. Looking at it for the Minnesota Vikings, it's going to be interesting to see how this rest of the season unfolds. We have all of our away divisional games yet to go against the Dolphins, Lions, Bears, and Packers. We have to go on the road to play all three of those teams. Must-win games right there. Looking at it for the Vikings, it's going to be really interesting to see how the rest of the season unfolds, and I want to continue to ride this hype train. I want to continue to keep this rhythm going. The Vikings have the longest win streak in the league right now. After the Philadelphia Eagles just lost, we have the longest win streak in the league, and it's going to be interesting to see how the season could go. Go Vikes. Skol, baby.